Hey, RetconRaider here, and welcome back to Strange Antiquities. As today we settle into day 12, Monday, the start of our final week back in Undermere. And while I will say, it does seem like it's finally stopped raining, things are getting noticeably darker as we get into this final stretch. A trend I'm sure will only continue as we work our way towards day 18. That said, between episode bookkeeping's done, so let's get back to it. Starting with the Stuff of Dreams. To my left, the day. To my right, the night. Yeah, pretty straightforward. I find the row of 3 tombs in the upper levels of the catacombs. The cool darkness is strangely calming at times down here, and I sit for a while in quiet contemplation. When I rouse from my thoughts, I look down at my feet and find an item there. Had it been there all along? I never noticed it when I sat down. Oh, that's an interesting one. Like a bowling pin with an afro. Let's get a closer look at this thing, see if we can perhaps narrow down what it might be. Wood. Oak, if I'm not mistaken. With a gold-adorned headdress. Feels warmer than I would expect. Otherwise hard but smooth to the touch. Makes a soft tinkling sound when it moves. Possibly the rings adorning the edges. Oh, okay, well now I can definitely hear it. Interesting. Nothing springs to mind, but we'll keep an eye out as we collect additional entries. David Chafer, the postman. I've been hearing worrying rumors about Verona Green. They're saying she drowned in the lake. I hope for all our sakes they're wrong. Yeah, you and me both, Dave. But I suspect if we hear anything official, it'll be from Simone or Francesca. According to family legend, an ancestor of mine hid an item of thaumic significance in his burial chamber. It has never been found, but not for lack of trying. I was tempted to search for it myself until I learned that it was in the catacombs in a place known as the Hall of Shields. Perhaps it's better to leave it to those who know what they're doing. Regards, MBM. The Hall of Shields, you say? Well, you know what? Having just studied the map, I think I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, I'd say this is probably pretty Hall of Shields-like. As I descend further into the catacombs, a strange sensation comes over me. It is not fear, although fear is mixed in with it. With cold clarity, I know at once what it is. I have entered an area known as the Depths, a place where few have been and fewer have returned from. Not even Palians can clear the air here and render it safe to breathe. But there is a way. Slate miners inhale the vapors produced by a spirit called a wandering shroud. They say it invigorates their senses and stays the mind rot that would otherwise consume them. It would be dangerous to continue exploring down here without following their lead. So obviously we need to look up Wandering Shroud, see what that points us towards. We do have that water-breathing amulet, but it doesn't sound like that's apt to help us here. Shield Charm and Spirit Vault. And Shield Charm, while thematically appropriate for the Hall of Shields, is kind of the opposite of what we want because it protects you from shrouds, rather than assisting in breathing from one. But a Spirit Vault, on the other hand, can store a Wandering Shroud, we do have a tentatively ID'd spirit vault, the problem being that, as it states here, it would be vibrating if it actually contained one, which I don't believe ours is, implying that we may need to actually track down a shroud and then trap it, though I suppose that would give us a use for the shield charm. This might be a multi-stage process. Yeah. Sulfur smell, gems of protection. Pretty obvious this is indeed our spirit vault, but it does not currently contain a shroud. But I'm not really seeing much else in the way of options here. Hey, nice. Oh, no, never mind. I tried breathing in the vapors from the wandering shroud, but to my horror, I realize that the spirit vault is empty. My vision starts to blur as the cloying air of the depths fills my lungs, and I stagger away in a daze. When at last I reach the surface, I take deep breaths of the fresh air, but my lungs ache for some time after. I need to be more careful. I have written to Barton Potter. He will know where to find a wandering shroud, which he presumably would not be able to respond to if we had fulfilled Bonnie's request, since in theory he'd either be injured or dead, which I think does make this one of the most complex events we've seen thus far. Definitely ramping things up going into our final week. Yeah, I guess we still have this, too. Though we can't really do much with it until we have the other half. Hey, buddy. Next. Nancy Irwin. Oh, my. I've done something quite stupid. I went exploring in Heath Wood and came across a grave. It was overgrown with dark brambles, so I started to clear them to get a better look at the inscription. I wasn't as careful as I should have been. The thorns were thick and menacing, and I scratched my arm on one of them. I have not felt well since. Please, help me. I mean, don't get me wrong, Miss Irwin, I will certainly see what I can do, but I feel like you should have maybe gone to Francesca for this? But I suppose we do have the next best thing. Oh, wow, right there. Black Heart. The heart of the sufferer feels constricted, as though it is clamped in a vice. The skin is pale and cold to the touch, and veins stand out darkly on the body. Eventually, death will occur. Which obviously doesn't really tell us much, but we do now know the name of the affliction. Black Heart. Lamb Siphon, which we do have tentatively ID'd. Used to reverse the effects of the Black Heart curse. A skilled hand is required to perform the procedure, drawing the curse from the body over the course of several hours. The instrument is made using the dried seed pod of a sheepsnap plant. A plant said to bring good fortune. And yeah, I feel pretty safe in saying it's this thing right here. Our wooden rattle with a bulb made from some sort of green, hollow, organic material. Also, a fun nod back to Strange Horticulture. There you go, Miss Irwin. Your trip was not in vain. Though seriously, get yourself over to Doc Robertson, like yesterday. Truth Conduit. These items are used by tricksters and swindlers to distort and deceive. They do not warrant the designation of dark article that some want to apply to them, but they can be, and have been, used maliciously. The gentle sound they produce anchors the mind as the spell is woven, combining symbology with a deeper, more primitive power. Which immediately makes me think of our new tinkling friend here. The one we weren't able to quite bowling pin down. In fact, you know what? I meant to do it before, but let's go ahead and look up that symbol real quick. The sideways hourglass. Deception. Yep, okay. That's got to be our truth conduit. I believe that's what it was called. I actually really like the concept on that one. Like literally jangling a set of keys in front of someone to keep them distracted while you wait for the actual magic to work. Oh, here we go. Thaddeus White. You don't know me, but it's time I introduce myself. I'm the curator of the Museum of History here in Undermere. Eli and I have a complicated relationship, but don't all siblings? I don't tend to come by the shop much anymore, but I heard he had left town for a few days. I wanted to bring him this, but I know he'd only turn me away without even looking at it. Okay, well, thank you, Thaddeus. I'll let him know you stopped by. This might sound a bit weird, but that artifact looks kind of delicious. Farewell. And we filled in our final gap on our cast of characters with the Curator, Thaddeus White. Not what I was expecting. I was really expecting something a bit more overtly villainous, like the cultist from Strange Horticulture. And to be fair, Thaddeus might still end up being a villain. But they're definitely playing it a bit more subtle this time around. You know, Audrey Bell's probably the most overtly villainous character in our current roster. Still up in the air on Potter. He could go either way. The Curator, Thaddeus White. As the curator of Undermere's Museum of History, Thaddeus is a collector of artifacts and curiosities from around the world. He has an eye for the rare and the unusual, and enjoys telling the world's unheard stories through his collections. Over the years, he has also amassed a collection of items he does not put on display. These are items that it would be best the public did not know about. They are known as dark articles. A term we literally just first encountered regarding the truth conduit. Okay, yeah, I'm seeing why these two might have come into conflict in the past. Thaddeus is of more of a mind to conceal items he deems too dangerous, whilst Eli is more prone towards looking towards potential use cases, even if he does recognize that they might also be dangerous, as with the truth conduit, which does make it curious that Thaddeus would go out of his way to bring this here. This delicious-looking tricolor parfait. Which immediately makes me think of this one, the Pit, representing Earth, Sun, and Death. Object does not produce a recognizable thaumic field capable of cracking solid rock. Okay, well that actually doesn't sound right, because I would not associate these three colors with Earth, Sun, and Death. Also, it does have a discernible thaumic field, so yeah, definitely not our Pit. Let's get a closer look. We've got gold, we've got wood, and we've got a green gemstone. We know from experience that green is nature, as is wood, obviously. Oh, it takes great effort to tear my eyes away. Oh, okay. Wait, I know exactly what this is. Hold on a sec. Because I believe we are looking for a Gaudian Siren. We have a positive visual match. Wow, that is not what I expected it to look like. I really figured it would be the skull. But they do love their misdirects. And yeah, this is definitely a misdirect, because you would expect something called the Siren to be audio-based as opposed to a visual compulsion. Without the associated illustration, I would have been more prone to think that, like, that tinkling bowling pin was our Gaudian Siren, more than I would have thought this was. Though now the question is, do we even have a Thaumic Needle? Because we certainly don't have any other amulets that resemble this one. Though we do have other clues for the Thaumic Needle as well. References to mind which might imply kyanite, the blue gemstone, plus the weight change when exposed to heat. Let's go ahead and tag this. Gaudian Siren, question mark. I will say, the visual compulsion also makes me think of Morgan's Folly, another item with a similar effect. But we actually have that one right here. Very similar concept. A visual compulsion effect that makes the onlookers more suggestible. But the description in this case made it clear the symbol was normally kept hidden, which did make it fairly obvious once I noticed the hidden compartment. As for the Thaumic Needle, I guess it might not actually be an amulet. Like previously, we just assumed it was an obelisk like these. So it is possible that one of these might be our Thaumic Needle. Yeah, you know what? Let's do some quick tests here. Not exactly exhaustive, but we'll see if we can at least hold a candle to some proper research. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm doing that right, but let's try the other. Oh, wow. Okay, well, I guess that answers that. There's our Thaumic Needle. Let's go ahead and get that one tentatively tagged as well. In neutral gray this time. Nice. Making progress. And on we go. Simone Green, the Librarian. Also Verona's daughter. Jupiter! Thank goodness you're safe. I was worried about you. I hope my mother is okay too. I've lost count of the amount of gossip I've heard about her misdeeds over the years. The truth is, when she gets stuck into a mystery, she's been known to disappear for days at a time. In the meantime, I believe I found another clue in the journal. The text directly before this is largely illegible, but I was able to make out a reference to a vault of some kind. Okay. Thanks, Simone. Hope your mom's okay. 3 resonant objects. Lightest first, heaviest last. Ah, resonance. Yeah, we haven't really messed with that much yet. Haven't had much of a need to. But this seems like as good an excuse as any, which shouldn't be too hard considering we've got our tentatively ID'd resonance compass right here. Yeah, that one feels pretty obvious. Not to mention, of course, it keeps pointing at things, so let's get a gander at what? Elvastone. Which clocks in at over 1 pound. You know, it might be easier to just weigh them against each other instead. But let's ping our other 2. Corvin's Might. I'm going to say that's probably heavier. Yes, very much so. So that's likely our heaviest. Now we just need one more, which I believe is actually right over here. Yeah, our Ambra. We noticed that right when we first opened the restricted section. That's how we kind of pinged the compass's functionality in the first place. And it is slightly lighter. Nice. Oh, weird. So a puzzle to unlock another puzzle. With a flower symbol. Multiple buttons, though. 1, 2, 3. Oh, okay. I know what that is. Hold on. Let me just take care of the compass real quick. We'll set it here since it's more tool than antiquity. But yeah, this is a nod to something we saw all the way back in episode 1. The 12 equidistantly placed buttons in a circular pattern references the clock just off left. However, I believe back in episode 1 we also saw that if you push the button above the clock, it reveals a very similar lunar symbol, which at the time I just assumed was like a lunar phase calendar or something, but this would certainly imply otherwise. Oh, there we go. Right. Symbols matched up. Clock hands have changed. So we're looking at 6, 4, 11. And look at that. Oh my, that actually looks really familiar. I've seen that somewhere. I mean, I have seen it on, I want to say, the promotional material. But I feel like we've seen it in-game as well. Whatever it is, it feels like it's bad news considering it was hidden away inside some sort of double-locked containment vault. Painted black with gold. Emitting a low hum. Something unusual about this item, but I can't quite put my finger on it. That does kind of make me think of that one item that we have an entry for, the Zephyr? The one that has the scent of a coming storm or latent magic. But that sounds a bit different than what we're seeing here. This is described as more of like a mental and audio cue, as opposed to a smell. Plus, I know we've seen it somewhere. I'm just trying to remember where. Visually reminiscent of the classic Mexican Day of the Dead skull iconography. Which doesn't really mean anything here, but it's the first thing it makes me think of. Zephyrim. I mean, you could argue the face... Well, that's a stretch. Yeah, they describe that fairly differently, so I don't think that's our Zephyrim. We'll just put a pin in that for later. Oh, though we can archive this. Next. Francesca Robertson. I got a fright when they brought the body of that poor drowned woman to me with those lifeless black eyes. I thought for sure it was Verona at first. She does look like her. But we're quite certain it's a lady from Hawkshead who went missing a few days ago. There's one thing I can't quite get out of my head, though. Why would she try and swim across the lake? And in the meantime, Verona is still missing. I don't like to use thaumic needles as a rule, but the circumstances are beyond the rulebook. We need answers. On that, I think we agree. I've got your thaumic needle right here. Hopefully this will help you get to the point. thread this all together. Thaumic Needle. No real surprise there. The weight thing did kind of clinch it. Loam. Sometimes called a Hand of Jupiter or a Fire Palm. Reverses the signs of aging, but only for so long before time catches up. With a vengeance. Complete with an illustration that of course immediately evokes at least one item we recently acquired. Though, given the nature of the item, I could also easily see the hand next to it being somewhat accurate as well, though I feel like these details here, Fire Palm and the reference to Jupiter perhaps, might be our clinchers. Good luck, Doc. But yes, fire and tin. Neither of which I'd really associate with either of these items, but let's go ahead and get a gander at gems. Amber being our obvious sun/firestone, though obsidian also meets that particular descriptor. And then nothing involving Jupiter. Let's check our book of symbols. Oh, okay. We've got fire. Basic triangle symbol. And Jupiter. 10. Kind of a fancy 21 and or reverse 4. Alright, so let's see if we've got anything that matches those potential... Oh, and there we go. Triangular-shaped amulet with a hand. And it is indeed made of tin. So that right there is clearly our Hand of Jupiter. And we'll tag that in red, since it has a pretty obvious side effect. Oh, and the needle. Yeah, we'll just toss that wherever. Okay. Next. Audrey Bell, the Priestess. The people are afraid, and they are right to be, but it is too late for them. They are of no use to us, but you might be. Prove yourself, and perhaps Holgar will deem you worth saving. I require an object to steady my restless congregation, and remind them why I am the one to lead us through this turbulent time. They respect strength and power above all else. Oh, which gives us options. Morgan's Folly, which makes people suggestible. Or Fortinance, which simply enhances physical strength. And I mean, honestly, I'd really kind of rather not give you anything, but if I have to choose, I'll probably give you the strength-enhancing statue, as opposed to something that just lets you straight up control people. I mean, there is the chance that if we were to give her Morgan's Folly, they might lose respect for her. But that's not necessarily something I'm willing to bet on. So I think, yeah, we're more apt to just fulfill the letter of her request and give her something that literally just physically makes her stronger. Fortinance. Simplistic stone totem, bearing a raised gold symbol of strength, since that's what the X with a diamond on top is. Yes, right there. Alright, Audrey. Here's your Fortinance. Please don't make me regret this. Though I'm sure you somehow will. Tormund's Bane. These can be rolled along the tongue to cure Tormund's paralysis, or worn about the neck to protect against the curse. Like most items that ward against curses, they emit a diurnic field pattern. Audrey. And end of day. Alas, alas. But this was a pretty chunky one. Lots of interesting stuff this time out. Including the potential reveal that Verona is, in fact, maybe still alive. Let's see if we can perhaps ID our Tormund's Bane. We'll need to match this pattern to see what a diurnic field looks like. Circle, circle, square. Yeah, I need more practice with this thing anyway. Gotta figure this thing out. What was the circle placement? Ah, right. Big one up top like a sun. Small one at mid. And there we go. And given that it specifically mentioned it's something you can wear around your neck, probably safe to assume it's one of these. Possibly that. But not that. Or that. Or that. Ah, but it might be that. Oh, but then we also have this note fragment about diurnic patterns. Mentioning an object made of silver, which I don't think is either of these, because this is like bronze. And the skull was gold. So our fragment seems to be in regards to something else. And obviously, as we've seen, multiple items can share the same field pattern. Tormund's Bane. Oh, which is also something you could theoretically roll along the tongue. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that neither of those look like they're particularly well suited for tongue rolling. One is like a fist-sized skull, and the other is a hand bearing an aquamarine gem, implying that whatever it does is associated with water. Not something I think I'd associate with curing paralysis. Yeah, I just don't think we have that one yet. Man, why do you look so familiar? We'll figure it out. Night, Jupiter. Stay safe, bud. End of day 12. The rider's partner was less fortunate. They found his frozen body a week later. Bonnie and Francesca's father, as well as Barton Potter's former partner. Something we really do need to ask him about at some point. I am marked by Jupiter. Oh, right. That's why it looks familiar. Which certainly does imply this is something very integral to the main plot. We'll keep that in mind. And then, as for this, Jupiter, thoughts? Yeah, that seems about right. Well, we also know that Jupiter means tin, and we know the symbol for it, so let's see if that perhaps pings anything. There, just off the ballroom. Well, that was easy. That said, we'll save that for next time, of course, since we are pushing the 40-minute mark, so we'd best call it here. Especially since I imagine day 13 is apt to be the day when things really start hitting the fan. Also, that'll give me a chance to do a little more light rearranging between episodes. I try to resist the urge during the actual episodes themselves, but sometimes I just can't resist. That said, we'll hit the pause button for now. I'll take care of the usual off-screen bookkeeping. And we will pick up here next time for Lucky Day 13. See you then. Oh, and special thanks to the Raiders, the fine folks who help make these videos possible, including but not limited to MiriV23, Revenant, Alois, Bowman, Dragon Matrix 7, Drakiith, EgonAlter, Exsellsior, Gottlieb, James Trimmier, Lady Shayna, Mark Giemza, Nathan Welch Jr., OverlordPherom, RandomPassrby, RobbyB, Thomas Piatkowski, Triphoppenskip, and Valinrook. Thanks for your support, guys. That said, if you'd also like to help support the channel, then feel free to push the buttons that do the things. Trust me, it does make a difference. Or you could even check out the PayPal, the Patreon, the Nexus GG, or the YouTube memberships. Links are in the description.